Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Tina and I make videos on lifestyle, home decor, and DIY projects every single week. And for today's video, I thought it'd be a fun idea to talk about some of my DIY mistakes as well as some project fails and things that you can do to avoid that so that you don't make the same mistakes as me. As an avid DIYer, I have definitely had my fair share of mistakes, and honestly, most of the time it is things that you can totally avoid. So I wanted to talk about some of those things today, and actually a viewer in the past has asked me to share some of my project fails, and at the time I didn't really have that many, but now that I've been making a ton more DIY videos, there are definitely a few that I want to share with you guys. So let's just jump right into the video. So the first mistake that I want to talk about is not prepping your workspace, and this is so important in just preserving your furniture and your home and just keeping things neat and tidy. I have definitely ruined a few tables in my time. So for example, I used a gold paint marker on my dining room table, which is like a really nice wooden table. For some reason, I did not cover the entire table. I just covered a tiny sliver of it. And yeah, I definitely ruined the table with a few paint splatter marks. I'll insert a little video of it. And it's not that big of a deal if you have a piece that's like solid wood and maybe you can sand it down, or if you can clean it up right away. But in this instance, I'm not able to take it off, and I don't really know what the best way is, especially since this table is so tricky to clean. I can't believe I did that. Even though it's so small and you can't really see it from far away, it just bothers me that it's there and that I totally could have avoided it if I just had covered my table. And I obviously did not learn my lesson, because literally last week I just ruined my table that I love so much. I basically started using super glue without even covering my table at all, which I usually don't do, but for some reason I was just testing this one thing and I was like, I'll just do it really quickly and I'll see if it works, and if it doesn't, it's fine. And I'm really mad that I did that because I glued the magnet on with the super glue. For some reason my hand tweaked out. I'm just like a clumsy person, and I dropped the magnet with the glue side facing down onto my desk. And at that point I tried to pick it up really quickly, but super glue obviously adheres really quickly, so I literally could not get it off the table. I basically had to use a knife to scrape it off, and it took some of the paint on the table off. And now there's a little chip in my desk, and I hate the look of that so much. So yeah, definitely learn from my mistakes. If you're working with something that is more permanent, make sure that you're covering up your workspace with some craft paper or some plastic drop or whatever it might be. It honestly is going to save you so much more time and money from ruining your objects. Pretty simple tip, but really useful in the long run. And the next big mistake that I have made in the past and I have learned not to do anymore is to not use the right materials. And I feel like as a DIYer, you kind of watch videos and look at tutorials and kind of think about the supplies that you already have and try to make it work, which a lot of times it does work, but then sometimes it doesn't work. So for example, I was trying to make macrame coasters for one of my videos, but all I had was 6mm macrame cord, which is a super thick macrame, and it's totally meant for bigger projects. And I wanted to create 4-inch coasters, and obviously that did not work because I used the wrong measurements as well as the wrong cord, because it was just so big that it was eating up so much of the surface area that the cords were going around, and it just did not look good. I ended up throwing it away because a lot of times if I'm not happy with a project and I can't save it, it's just gonna go into the trash. And that's usually how I am with my DIY projects. I'll keep them for a couple days to see if I can save them, and if there's no going back, I'll just throw them in the trash. So let me know if that's something that you also do. Do you hoard onto unfinished projects thinking that you'll get back to it one day, or do you throw it away because you know there is just no coming back from it? Alright, so this next one is a major one because hot glue guns are definitely an essential tool if you're a DIYer. It's just the perfect tool to use for so many projects, but I've definitely made my fair share of mistakes with it. And I think one of the biggest ones is not turning it off. There's no on and off button on my hot glue gun, so all you have to do to heat it up is to plug it in. And a lot of times I will forget to unplug it, and that is like literally so terrifying to me that I've had it on overnight or I've had it on when I wasn't even in the home and then I come back a couple hours later and I realize that it's still on. This is such a terrible thing to admit because so many things can go wrong, especially since this thing gets really hot. It can not only damage your furniture, but also is a potential fire hazard. Number one mistake that I make, and I really need to invest in one that just turns on and off because this one is just not cutting out for me anymore. I need to get a wireless one and one that has an on-off switch so I don't continue to forget about it. Another thing I want to mention is to make sure to protect your fingers when you're working with hot glue. It's so easy to work on a DIY project that gets really repetitive really easily, so you kind of stop paying attention to what you're doing, and this will lead you to work a little bit quicker or just not being as careful with your hands as you should be. And as I mentioned in my previous video, I did burn my finger working on some projects last week. I still have the burn on my hand and it's healing right now, but I think this was important to mention because there are definitely some tools out there that can help you, so you can get those little Dollar Tree silicone fingertips, and those have been really helpful for me, especially since I could just slip them on and use them really easily. So I would definitely recommend those if you don't already have them. Moving on to mistake number 4, this is probably one of the worst mistakes that you can make, and that is not protecting or sealing your projects. This is definitely something that I want to be better at, so whenever I'm working on a project, I really want to make sure that it lasts long so I can enjoy it in the long run. And to do that, you have to make sure that you have the right materials to protect your projects. So whether that is using a sealant so that your project stays nice and protected from moisture, or even framing your prints and your artwork, it's really important that you preserve it for as long as you can. And this is actually a mistake that happened to me today because I ruined one of my pieces of art that I'm really sad about. Why do I do this to myself? So as you can see, my little drawing got ruined, and that's because I was unpacking it, taking it out from the frame. I just put it on a desk and then I got water on it, and now it is not as pretty anymore. And one thing that I could have done to save this was to spray it in some type of sealant or to have it in some type of protective covering. Obviously I'm clumsy and I did not do that, so I think I'm just going to recreate this piece so that I have another one. I still will save it since it's only a little piece of it that's ruined, but still it sucks when something you worked so hard on gets ruined, so I definitely don't want that to happen to you guys. So make sure that you're protecting and sealing all of your projects so this doesn't happen to you guys in the future. Another big DIY mistake that I still make to this day is not following directions and not reading instructions. I feel like as someone who watches a lot of DIY videos, I think I know how to do something before actually attempting it. So I'll just jump straight in without reading some of the directions on my material sometimes. You guys have definitely seen that in some of my videos in the past. I finally read the directions on the container and it said to mix it up before using it, which I didn't do. And if the spackle was dry and falling off of the knife, to add in a teaspoon of water. So I immediately knew that I should have done this from the beginning. This is especially important for things with drying times as well as how to handle them. So definitely read the directions before you jump straight in. This is just something that I'm trying to maneuver better. Sometimes it's really worth it to read the fine print. And with that brings my last point, which is to have patience and trust the process. This last mistake is really important to keep in mind because you're not always going to get something right the first time. So make sure if a project doesn't turn out the way you want it to, keep on practicing and don't give up. There are definitely projects that I've worked in the past that did not turn out so well. And when that happens, I try not to get discouraged because DIYing really is a learning process. It's a lot of trial and error, and trying to create something from an idea to reality is going to take more than one try sometimes. So be sure to have patience, enjoy the process, trust the process, because DIYing should be a fun thing that you're doing and not something that you should rush. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and liked hearing about some of my DIY mishaps. And if you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I also wanted to share some projects that you guys have been making because they are looking so good. I love when I get a new tag notification because that means that one of you guys were inspired to make something, and that just makes me so happy. So thank you guys so much for supporting this channel. I didn't say this in my last video, but thank you guys all so much for 25,000 subscribers. I am in such awe of all of you guys, and I'm just so grateful that you're here joining this journey. I'm just so happy and so grateful, and I'm just so excited for where where this channel takes us. So thank you guys all so much for subscribing and supporting. I will have another DIY video coming up next, and then after that I'm going to share some moving content. So let me know in the comments down below if you guys would like to see a moving vlog. I am so excited for this new chapter, and I'm really glad that you guys are here to join me. And with that, I will close out this video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay inspired, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!